Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wolfpacker Show. My name is Ethan McDowell, and I am here with Noah Fleischman. We are back for our final NC State football preview episode. Noah, fall camp starts next week. Football season is practically here. We spent yesterday in Charlotte for NC State's ACC Media Day, and we're going to wrap things up this week with a preview of NC State's defensive backs. We're going to talk corners, safeties, and nickels today. The position group that I'll just go ahead and spoil it, I think is going to be the strength of this defense and perhaps the team this year. Before we dive into the preview, just want to mention that we're both writers for the Wolfpacker.com. That's NC State's site on the On3 network. It's the fastest growing college football, basketball recruiting site out there. Right now, it is only $1 to join the Wolfpacker.com for premium access to our message board, recruiting scoops. It's a big day for that today. And everything else that you're looking for NC State related, we have it all there. We spent the day in Charlotte. We have a ton of stories up about Media Day, more coming from the interviews we did with Jordan Waters, Davin Van, Grayson McCall, and Dave Doran, of course, as well. So go check that all out on the wolfpacker.com. Again, it's only $1 to join. It's not going to get cheaper than that. So go check out that exclusive offer. All right, let's dive into the defensive backs. No, we're going to start off with corners today. We're going to talk about NC State's cornerbacks. Obviously, a talented group, a group that there is a lot of excitement around this offseason. Before we dive into, the details of the two deep, can you just kind of outline for our listeners who left and who arrived in that room this offseason?
Yeah, cornerback lost two to graduate, or Shane Battle left to go to the NFL draft, and then Tayshawn Smith also departed due to expiring eligibility. They added a few corners to the room. Corey Coley transferred in from Maryland. Devon Marshall transferred in from Villanova, and then Javon Bali, a freshman, joined the back. So two left, three in. NC State had pretty good time retaining one of its better talents, Aiden White, who did enter the transfer portal last year, ended up removing his name and is back to anchor this group.
Yeah, for a little while, it did look like they were going to lose Aiden White, right, to the transfer portal. He was in there for a little while, and they went out and they got two transfer portal corners that I think you would have been pretty comfortable with them starting this year, those transfer portal guys, and then Aiden White returns, and suddenly it's an extremely deep room. So let's run through the two deep. First off, Aiden White. Again, he's going to start. Again, he's looking for his third consecutive All ACC season. Of course, in 2022, he made the All Conference first team, followed that up with an All Conference third team season last fall. Last year, part of the reason I don't think he made the first team is because teams weren't really throwing at him as much, but he still managed to record 37 total tackles, 2 interceptions, and a career high 10 defended passes. He was really good down the stretch of last season. I thought, he had a couple rough games early in the year, but I thought he really rebounded and played lights out football, that all conference first team level that we saw out of him 2 years ago down the stretch. And, him leaving the transfer portal would have been a massive loss for this team. He is definitely has a case to be a day 2 draft pick, maybe even day 1 with a, electric season this year. He's someone that has improved every year he's been in Raleigh. Former 3-star recruit that's just developed into a superstar. So a lot of excitement about him. Noah, who do we see starting opposite of Aiden White in the corner room?
Yeah, I think it's a spot that's interesting. Good competition. I don't think the competition is over
No.
going into fall camp. But if you penciled in someone right now, I'd say Brandon Cisse. Outstanding freshman year a year ago, being that dime corner, playing a lot as a freshman in the package, knowing this defense a little bit better after a year of being in it. He's a guy that has impressed everywhere. We'll talk about his athleticism in a little bit, but he's off the charts, speed off the charts, everything. Coach Thunder raved about him, saying, he's had one of the best off seasons of anybody. Just being a guy that's a kind of a freak of nature. And he's a guy that plays really well too. Last year, his numbers aren't crazy, but he wasn't playing every single snap like Aiden White, Shaheem Battle were. But he still had a pick. So we'll see what he can do. But I think right now, if you say who is that starter on July 26th, heading into fall camp, I'd say Brendan Cisse, but don't count out Corey Cooley. He can
Yeah.
push for that job, an experienced guy from Maryland.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Cisse is someone that so he signed with NC State as a four-star recruit, right? But that's a little misleading because he is someone that NC State brought in for camp, evaluated, and offered when he was an unranked prospect out of South Carolina. He, of course, had a huge senior year, rocketed up the rankings, and ended up as a four-star recruit. But I mean, the second he arrived on campus, there was just a lot of hype about him, and he's done really, really well. I thought he took noticeable steps forward as the season went along in the dime package, and it sounds like he's carving out a role as NC State's second outside corner. Just a ton of hype about him this offseason. Tony Gibson told me that he thinks Brandon Cisse will be one of the best corners in the country. Dave Doran, we brought up that comment to him when we talked to him, Noah, and he said he wasn't going to put all of that on him yet, but he's also very optimistic about Cisse's potential, and it's easy to say why. Like I see why, like you said, super fast, and he's 6 foot, and they might get him up to like around 200 pounds to play corner. That's what how comfortable Coach Thunder is with his speed and athleticism being maintained, that they can really bulk him up. So when he matches up against the most physical, tall receivers, that he's going to be able to hold his own. I think he has, NFL ceiling. Absolutely. I think he could absolutely be a pro prospect for NC State down the road, but that starts with a big breakout season this fall. I think he's going to win the other outside cornerback job, just to be clear. But it is going to be a super interesting position battle with Corey Coley, someone who, had proven production in Maryland, played in a rotation role. I think he will be the primary backup. To be clear, like last year, Aiden White and Shaheem Battle played almost every single outside corner snap. I think we'll see more of a rotation this year. Tony Gibson told me that he believes they are deeper than they ever have been since he's been here at corner. So, and I think you can definitely say they're at least a solid 4 deep at that spot. And I think you could even go beyond that if someone like Rente Hinton or Jackson Vicks steps up. But Noah, round out the top 4 for us here. Talk to us a little bit about Devin Marshall.
Yeah, Devin Marshall, a guy who is transferring in from Villanova. It got better throughout the year when you look at what he did last year. This is a guy who down the stretch played really well. As I'm pulling up his numbers, but overall, coming from Villanova, I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. Being from the FCS, that doesn't really mean a whole lot because what he did at Villanova is something special. He had 47 total tackles last year as a corner, 11 pass deflections, no interceptions, but he was really, really making plays outside and down the stretch, was not allowing many receptions. I believe it was the last 7 weeks he allowed 2 or less receptions a game. I need to pull up the exact number, but overall, this is a guy who improved as the year went on, as competition got better. Villanova made the FCS playoffs. He kept playing into deeper and deeper in college football. He's a guy they're really excited about. Little interesting the way they got him, brought him in over the offseason. He did play in spring practice, but Villanova had visited NC State the year before, learning from Tony Gibson's 3-3-5 defense. He's comfortable in that system, and Villanova staff was the first to reach out. Once he went in the portal, said, "Hey, Tony, I think you need to get this guy." And that's what they did.
And he's a bit of an anomaly compared to the typical like NC State cornerback, which you're usually seeing 6 foot plus. He is 5'11", but I don't think that'll be an issue. I think he's also someone that has the versatility to play in the slot at nickel if they need him to. So that'll be interesting to monitor as well if he rotates in and out.
Yeah, he's really talented. No, and you look at who was interested in him in the portal: Tennessee, Mississippi State,
Yeah.
Pitt, Cincinnati. There were some good teams that wanted his services. NC State got him, and it'll be interesting. Tennessee week 2.
Yeah, no, there was definitely competition for him. He was a highly sought after defensive back in the portal. And yeah, just to be clear, like the reason Aiden White and Brandon Cisse seem to have like the edge for the starting spots is because they're really good. It's not by default. Like they're just expected to be really, really, really good cornerbacks. Corey Coley and Devin Marshall, I'd say would start for NC State a lot of the time in a lot of past iterations of the Wolfpack. But they're in a fortunate spot where I think they're going to be able to rotate a legitimate four deep, keep those DBs fresh. And yeah, we talked at the top of the show about how I thought it would be the strength of the defense, and that's why it's deep and talented. All right. Well, we were about to give our reasons for why we're optimistic and concerned, and I feel like I just gave my reason for why I feeling good about this group. But Noah, why don't you go? Why do you feel good about NC State's corners?
Aiden White. That's the only two words you need to know when you feel good about this group. He's a guy could have went to the NFL draft last year. Probably would have heard his name called on day 3. Decided to come back and give it another go for his last year in Raleigh. And as you said, he's a guy that's going to hear his name called, in April. And this is going to be a big year for him to see how far up he can, launch his draft stock. Other guys on the team are dealing with the same thing, like Anthony Belton on the offensive line. But he's a guy that's reliable. Everyone knows what he is. The ACC knows what he is. Don't expect a lot of targets going his direction once conference play hits. Be interesting to see what Tennessee does in week 2, if they throw at him or not with a young quarterback. But overall, he's a guy that is a proven product. He can lead that group, and Brandon Cisse learning from him will just make him that much better, going into his junior year.
No, I mean, you're looking at, all right, if Brandon Cisse is as good as expected, then you're not going to be able to just, single him out in coverage and throw at him a bunch. So maybe we do see like Aiden White's ball production go up a little bit, because like if Cisse's having such a good year this year, they're just going to have to throw at Aiden White a little bit more. And if history shows anything, I mean, you look at his 2022 season where he had 4 interceptions. Like if you throw at Aiden White, it's usually not going to end well for you. So it's going to be interesting to watch that group, man. I'm very intrigued by the potential of that unit. Reason to be concerned, Noah. I'm kind of at a loss. I mean, you're bringing in 2 transfers, and there's not a guarantee that's going to work out. And also, you're relying on a leap from a sophomore. But I feel like with Cisse, it's like we saw it though. We saw him making those small leaps over the course of the season, and I've just heard it. I've heard the hype about him from just so many sources that it's hard to ignore, and it's hard to. I can't. I have a hard time believing everyone is just exaggerating it. So I don't know. Noah, is there anything you're concerned about with this group?
Not really. Maybe there's the youth of Brandon Cisse being a sophomore, but he played almost every game last
Yeah.
year at some
Yeah.
point. And we've been this hype isn't new. First day of practice, spring ball, Brandon Cisse's name is being spoken about how good
Mhm.
he's looking, and ever since then, it's been all Brandon Cisse on that defensive back room. So maybe his age, but I think he's more than ready and more than capable of taking over that Shaheen Battle spot, becoming one of NC State's better corners. And we could be talking about Brandon Cisse, a preseason ACC All ACC player next year if he plays the way he's playing, expected to play this year. After that, I really don't see any concern for this room right now. NC State's defense is kind of like that in most spots, where it's like, all right, I feel pretty good, and we're going to talk about another part of the defense in a second that I'm sure we feel pretty good about. But overall, cornerback, I wouldn't be too worried about it.
No, and even on the off chance that it, Cisse's youth shows maybe early in the season, and he needs a few games to kind of get in a rhythm, then you can just play Corey Coley more. And and he's someone that there was a lot of positive buzz about Corey Coley in the spring. Like it's again, it's not that NC State's starting a true sophomore because they have to. They just have a really good true sophomore. Just to make that very clear. All right, before we head to break here, I'm going to answer one of our listener questions because it relates to the guy we've been talking about all episode. Noah, which defensive back on NC State's roster is the fastest?
This guy we've been talking about for the past 14 minutes, Brandon Cisse. I mean, you talk about this guy was expected to run 4.38, 4.39, 40. Kind of waiting to see what that actually came out to being, but he's a guy that can fly, and they're really excited about him. And and we'll see him use that this year on the field.
Yeah, and that's 4.39 speed at 6 foot, and I believe he's up over 190 now. So there you go. That's real speed, and that's what you want out of your corners for sure. So yeah, a lot of reasons to be excited about that cornerback room. All right, we're going to talk about NC State's safety and nickels room, but before we do that, I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsor, Game Time. Game Time is a ticket buying and selling marketplace. Whether you're looking for tickets to NC State football season opener against Western Carolina, if you're looking to reserve your Canes tickets super early this year, or go to a Durham Bulls game, a concert, a comedy show, anything you need a ticket for, Game Time has it. I love it. I use it. I have it on my phone right here. And it's just an easy to use app, and they just streamline the ticket buying process, which I really appreciate. My favorite part about the app is that when you get on there and you're scrolling through tickets at Carter Finley Stadium, you can see the view from the seat that you'd be purchasing. I'll hold it up for those watching on YouTube. You can see here's Carter Finley Stadium, and there's the seats. So it just takes a step out of the ticket buying process. I don't have to head to Google and look up what's the view like from row double E. No, it's all on the app, and that's just, I appreciate that process. Right now, the cheapest ticket for the season opener is $32. So it's a great deal. And to make that deal even better, if you go and use Game Time, and you can find it, by the way, on any app store or on your web browser at gametime.co, use code Wolfpack when you check out. And that's all caps Wolfpack. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. So it makes a sweet deal even sweeter. And yeah, more than worth it, in my opinion, to take the time to go download that app, create an account, and all that good stuff. So go check it out, Game Time, on any app store or on your web browser at gametime.co. All right, Noah, let's talk about NC State's safety and nickel rooms, two places where they brought in a lot of talent. So break it down, who left the room and who arrived.
Yeah, leaving the safety slash nickel room, Rakeem Ashford, who had an injury late in last year in Raleigh, he's gone. Jakeem Harris transferred to North Carolina. Robert Kennedy is out of eligibility, and Cecil Powell, I believe, ended up at Troy. So that's the safety and nickel room, and then they brought in pretty talented bunch of guys. When you look at who they have, we'll go with the guys that showed up before the spring. Tamarcus Cooley, transfer from Maryland, local guy, is back at nickel. Freshman Asad Brown also playing nickel this year. When you look at the safety room, Rente Hinton moved from corner to safety, so we'll put him here, as well as freshman Brody Barnhart has arrived on campus too. And then post spring, they did pretty good there too. Donovan Kaufman, Kerry Martin, Jahad Carter, all showing up post spring, and those three could have some big roles in this group.
Yes, this is one of the more interesting two deeps. A lot of it kind of depends on Devin Boykin's health. He's, of course, recovering from an ACL injury that he suffered during bowl practice. I've heard that he's ahead of schedule in his recovery, but there's no timetable for when they're expecting him to return. No guarantee he's ready for week 1. We're going to go through this on the assumption that he is, though. He's someone that has played, both safety spots and nickel for NC State. One of the more versatile defensive backs in the ACC. For the sake of this exercise, I would expect him to start at, I'd say probably strong safety. I think he would hold down the strong safety spot if he was back. So pencil him in for strong safety. At free safety, I think you're going to see one of the newcomers, Noah. I think you would see Donovan Kaufman, the Auburn transfer. He's one of the few players that is kind of like locked into his position, right? He's expected to be NC State's free safety. And that makes sense. He's kind of taken over that Sean Brown role from last season. And, DK, he had, 37 total tackles in a rotational role last year. 2 forced fumbles, an interception, a sack. He's one of those players that just seems to have a knack for creating turnovers, creating game-changing plays. And that's what NC State likes out of that, in the box safety spot, someone that can does not hesitate to, lay down a big hit but also can play in coverage and go get the ball if needed. So that's who I see winning the free safety job. Noah, nickel also is a kind of an interesting position for this year for the Pack. Who do you see holding down the starting spot there?
I put Jahad Carter from Ohio State. I'd put him there. He's a guy, is probably one of the most underrated kind of, later addition in the post spring portal. But man, this guy can play, and he's going to be the guy that I think that steps into this role at nickel, kind of signaling that, which was then moving Devon Marshall to corner.
Yeah,
Kind of made me think, okay, like they're really comfortable with Jahad Carter, a guy who's coming from Ohio State, but started his career at Syracuse, where at Syracuse he put up numbers 65 tackles in his freshman year, 2020, 35 in both 2021 and 2022. Last year, battled injuries at Ohio State, only had 5 total tackles, but he can play, 5 career interceptions. He's a game changer at nickel.
Yeah, things didn't work out at Ohio State, but he was an all ACC guy at Syracuse, someone that the staff is really excited about, and everything I've heard indicates that he's going to be the starting nickel. So I think, we could almost write that in pin. I think he will be NC State's starting nickel, assume everything goes well at fall camp. All right. Now, the two deep is really interesting. Assuming Devin Boykin's healthy, that pushes Bishop Fitzgerald, the senior former junior college transfer, that would push him into a rotational role. Bishop played both safety spots last season, expecting him to be at strong safety this year. He recorded 42 total tackles, 3 defended passes, and 2 picks during his junior year. Someone that, super fast athlete, again, nose for the football. And I thought another guy who I thought improved as the year went on. And when I talked to Tony Gibson about the secondary, he really complimented Bishop's improvement throughout the year. I could see him, I think if Devin is not ready for game 1, I think Bishop will slide into that starting spot. That's my prediction for the unit. At free safety, it's probably going to be KJ Martin, right? Like the Akron transfer, an all-MAC defender who, again, proven production, started his career at West Virginia. Tony Gibson recruited him to West Virginia and then left like 10 days after KJ arrived on campus to come to NC State. He had a couple good years at Akron, and now he's going to finish out his career at with the Wolfpack. He's going to be a valuable depth piece. He'll come in and push the starters, and I think play a important rotation role. No, I'm going to throw back to you for nickel again. One of the more intriguing backup spots. Where do you see that? How do you see that kind of shaking out?
Yeah, it's Marcus Cooley, a local guy from Raleigh, coming back home from Maryland, redshirt freshman. He's got 4 years to play for. I think, if we see him in a backup spot this year, that's fine. He's got plenty of eligibility left, can continue to develop, but he's capable of playing. And if anything, we'll see him in a special teams role, I'd imagine.
Yeah, to Marcus, I got to evaluate him a lot. Like you said, he was from Roseville, so just right up the road. I got to see him in person a few times. Mentality-wise, he is exactly what you want in an NC State nickel. I feel like that position, you just got to be really tough, and that's what Tamarcus is. One of the things that stood out to me evaluating him as a recruit, Noah, is when we covered him at a camp, he had already blown up. He had offers from every school in the world, but he came to NC State for camp, and he would do a rep at receiver because at the time he was an athlete. He was getting recruited to play both sides of the ball. He would do a rep at receiver, and then immediately go do a rep at corner, and then he would he did more reps than anyone at camp that day, just challenging himself again and again and again. And that was good to see. That's just kind of the edge you like to see an NC State defensive back play with. And he played limited snaps with Maryland last year, and I'm excited to see what he can do with the Pack. He was recruited to play nickel out of high school before he eventually flipped to the Terrapins, and that's where he'll be this year as well. Already very close with Freddie Autry-Lindsay on the coaching staff there. So I think it's a great sign if he wins that position battle and he's the backup nickel, and maybe we see him get some snaps there. I think that would be a great sign for NC State's future in the secondary if he's going to, develop into a playmaker for the Pack. All right, let's turn to optimistic reasons why we are feeling good about NC State's safety room. Noah, give us your first one. Why are you feeling good about this position group?
Going to sound like a broken record. We've said this about a couple other positions, but just competitive depth. We've talked about the amount of depth that these two rooms have, and it says a lot, right? When you can be comfortable with the guy that's the backup, if he needs to play and play at a lot of snaps, he can do it at a high level, and that's what NCC has, both at corner and nickel, or safety and nickel and corner, but these two especially. So I think that they feel really good about what they have, and if somebody does get hurt, or if Devin Boykin is late getting back for whatever reason, they feel just okay. I don't think there's any panic of being like, oh, we need to rush somebody back. There's no reason to, and they don't obviously seem like they're going to. So that's the biggest thing I think is positive about this group is they're good, they're deep, and they've got experience, and which is what you want, especially in a year that NC State has aspirations of playing deep into December and early January.
Yeah, my reason for optimism is similar, and it's all to do with an anecdote that Tony Gibson shared with me earlier this summer, where he talked about how with Devin, and we mentioned he's played everywhere in the secondary, and he talked about that, how in previous years they had to move Devin around, play him in a variety of roles because of injury or other issues. And Tony Gibson does not expect them to have to do that this year. It is at a point where Devin's going to be able to just stick at strong safety whenever he's back. And when he is back, like even if someone gets hurt, like we just talked about, there's a solid 2 deep already in place, right? So they should just be able to, you just slot someone else in there. And you don't have to move Devin around. Everyone's going to just have their roles. People are like the members of this 2 deep, they're capable of playing multiple spots, no doubt about it, but they're not going to have to. And that's just going to be beneficial for fall camp. You have someone working in one spot. They're focused on their responsibilities for one spot. And that's just going to, it's going to help. It's just going to help with development for everybody. It's going to help with cohesion for a secondary that's going to look a lot different than last year. So it's just going to help, I think, everyone mesh a lot quicker, in my opinion, at least. Reason to be concerned. I'll start us off, I guess, but I guess it's Devin Boykin's health for me. I don't think it's catastrophic if he's not back early in the season, but I think you'd really like to have him back there. He is like a quarterback of the defense type of guy. I think, people don't talk about just how smart of a football player he is. You'll watch him. Like there's one play from last season, I think it was against Clemson, where he was playing as a deep safety and he just read a screenplay like a freaking book, man. And he stopped it made a TFL, and he's just a really smart player. I'm sure fans remember his game-winning interception against FSU, where after the game he talked to us. Noah, he was like, "Oh, they ran that play earlier, and I recognized it," and he went and made the pick. And I thought that was one of the more, one of the coolest explanations and press conferences I've been a part of, just because of how he kind of took us inside behind the curtain of how his mind operated in that moment. But I really like him as a player. I think he's someone with all ACC potential this year if he does play enough to reach those heights. But no, is there anything you kind of have questions about with this group?
Not really, but you could just say like there's some transfers in starting spots. A lot of pressure on them to perform, especially two transfers that showed up after spring practice. Fall camp will be their only time to go through the system and be able to slot in, but I think they'll be fine. They're both experienced players at the college level, and they'll be able to slot in. But that might be the only concern, right? They don't have that 15 practice window that everyone had in the spring to kind of get acclimated. They got to get acclimated on July 31st and have less than a month to get it ready before they play Western Carolina.
So no, is this going to be the best position group on the team? The DBs as a whole, the secondary?
I would say on the defense. I think on the team, probably not. I think the wide receiver room has a beat there, but otherwise, they're pretty close second.
All right, I'm going with the DBs. I think it's going to be the best position group on the team. Which hey, that practice should be fun. Practice should be fun watching those two groups compete. Again, something I was thinking about when we were listening to the coaches talk at ACC Media Day, or just Coach Doran, was it's like there's competitive depth at each individual position, and there's just, I feel like, competitive depth almost like, or just competition for what this team's identity is going to be, right? Um, like in the past years, it was clearly like the defense was better, like by a good bit over the past couple of years, and that's not necessarily a fault to the offense as much as it did struggle at times. It's just the defense was one of the best in the country. This year, there's more question marks with the defense, but that leads to motivation for this group. Davin Van talked about it yesterday. With the offense, they're pretty eager to take a leap forward here, and there's a lot of talent on that side of the ball. There's just a lot of reasons to be excited. We've talked about it over the past couple of weeks. I really don't think we're exaggerating. I don't think we're being hyperbolic with any of these position previews, folks. I think there's just a lot of reasons to be excited about NC State football this fall, and we appreciate you all sticking around for the rest of this preseason. We're going to have plenty of more stuff to come, and we appreciate you all tuning in and sticking with us throughout all of it. We'll be back pretty soon. We'll probably record an episode next week to talk about how the first day of fall camp went. And so we'll be back in your podcast feeds then. But until then, go check out the wolfpacker.com for, everything recruiting related, football related, just all sorts of good stuff over on the website right now. So please go check it out. It's only $1 to join, and we appreciate you all tuning in today. Have a good one, folks.